Hello everybody and welcome to chapter 49 of the book of Bereishit as we continue to travel through Tanach. Chapter 49 is found in the Koren Sachs Chumash on page 328 and 329. We are getting ever closer to the end of the book of Bereishit. Chapter 49 is the penultimate chapter, just one more to go after this. In this chapter we will read about Yaakov as he prepares for death. He gathers his sons in order to be able to give them blessings. These are not simple blessings. They are sharp, honest, prophetic portraits. Some sons are praised, others are rebuked. Reuven is criticized for instability, Shimon and Levi for uncontrolled anger. Yehuda is given leadership and kingship. Yosef receives a long, warm blessing of resilience and blessing. Each son is addressed according to his character and future role. Yaakov then instructs his sons to bury him in the cave of Machpelah with his parents and grandparents, and he dies peacefully. The language in this chapter is different to a lot of the language that has been used up until now. There are some very beautiful poetic blessings contained in this chapter, and it will be difficult to do justice to the layers of complexity and prophecy that are contained within each of the brachot that Yaakov gives to his sons. Nevertheless, we will try and do our best to paint a bit of a picture and to give some insights into what we are reading. So with that in mind, let's turn to chapter 49, verse 1. Vayikra Yaakov el banav, Yaakov called his sons, Vayomer, and he said, Hey asfu, va'agida lachem es asher yikra eschem ba'acharis hayamim. Gather together, so that I can tell you what will happen to you in the days to come. Or more literally, acharis hayamim means the end of days. It seems at the beginning of this chapter, Yaakov wants to gather his sons round him so that he can reveal how history is going to unfold and how the story will end. And yet, as we will see, he doesn't actually do this. Although his words of blessing to his sons do include certain aspects of prophecy about things that will unfold, an actual description of what the end of days will look like is not forthcoming in this chapter. And our rabbis paint a picture for us that with the sons gathered round, Yaakov all of a sudden felt that particular prophecy slip away from him. He was concerned that perhaps it was because there was no unity amongst the brothers, and our sources talk about how they tried to reinforce for their father that indeed the brothers had reconciled, there was unity among them. Nevertheless, he doesn't reveal these major details at this time. Verse 2, Hikavtzu v'shimu b'nei Yaakov. Assemble and listen, Yaakov's sons. V'shimu el Yisrael avichem. Listen to your father, Yisrael. And now the next verses will be Yaakov's blessings to each of his sons. Verse 3, Reuven bechori ata. Reuven, you are my firstborn. Kochi v'reishis oni, my strength and the first fruit of my manhood. Yeser se'es v'yeser az, excelling in rank and excelling in power. Verse 4, Pachaz kamayim, unstable like water, altosa ki alisa mishkevei avicha. You shall not excel, for you went up onto your father's bed, az chilalta, and defiled it, yitzui Allah, and went up onto my couch. We start with Yaakov's rebuke of his son Reuven, and our rabbis point out that he didn't rebuke Reuven until the end of his life because he didn't want to risk him leaving and joining Esav. And in these words, Yaakov references the mistake that Reuven made of moving Yaakov's bed from Bilhah to Leah. Verse 5, Shimon v'Levi achim. Shimon and Levi are brothers. Klei chamas mecherosehem, weapons of violence, their wares. And this is referring to when Shimon and Levi conspired together. They were brothers in arms, conspiring to kill the inhabitants of Shechem, and later conspiring for what they did to Yosef. Verse 6, Besodam al tavon nafshi, let me never join their counsel. Bikhalam al teicha kvodi, nor my honor be of their assembly. Kiva apam hagu ish, uvirtzonam ikru shor. For in their anger they killed men, at their whim they hamstrung oxen. In this verse, Yaakov is trying to emphasize that he did not know what they were going to do in Shechem. He is creating that distance between what they did and what Yaakov was expecting them to do. Verse 7, Arur apam, cursed be their anger, ki az ve'evrasan ki kashasa, for it is most fierce, and cursed be their fury, for it is most cruel. Achal kein bi Yaakov, v'afitzeim b'Yisrael. I will divide them up in Yaakov and scatter them in Yisrael. Verse 8, Yehuda, ata yoducha achecha. Yehuda, your brothers shall praise you. Yadcha ba'oref oivecha. Your hand will be on the neck of your foes. Yishtachavu lecha b'nei avicha. To you will your father's sons bow. Verse 9, Gur Aryeh Yehuda. Yehuda is a lion's cub. Miteref b'nei Alisa. From the prey, my son, you have risen. Kara Ravatz Karyeh. Like a lion he crouches, lies down. Uchlavi mi kemenu. And like a lioness, who dares to rouse him? Since King David is a descendant of Yehuda, this verse is really speaking about him. And so he refers to him as a lion cub at first, which represents the beginning of his leadership. And then afterwards he is crowned king, like the lion being the king of the other animals. Verse 10, Lo yasur shevet mihuda. The scepter shall not pass from Yehuda, meaning leadership will not pass from Yehuda, u'mechokek mibein raglav, nor the staff from between his feet, ad kiavo shilo velo yikhasamim, so that tribute will come to him and the homage of nations be his. And this reference to Shiloh is also a reference to the fact that there will always be leaders emerging from the tribe of Yehuda until Mashiach comes. Even when they are in exile, even when they are in Galut, where there is no king anymore from the tribe of Yehuda, there will nevertheless be lawmakers and leaders. Yehuda will always reign in one form or another until Mashiach comes. And we have seen this prophecy unfolding. Verse 11, Osri la gefen iro, he will tie his donkey to the vine, v'lasoreka b'ni asono, and to the vine branch his donkey's foal. Kibes bayayin levusho, he washes his clothes in wine, uvedam anavim suso, and his robe in the blood of grapes. And Rashi says that this is a prophecy that Yisrael will return to Jerusalem and build the Beis HaMikdash, and that the Mashiach will be surrounded by many tzaddikim, whom he will teach Torah to. Verse 12, Chachlili einayim miyayin, his eyes are darker than wine, uleven shinayim echalav, and his teeth are whiter than milk, which our rabbis say is another sign of Mashiach. Verse 13, Zvulun lechof yamim yishkon, Zvulun will live by the seashore, v'hu lechof anios v'yachaso al Sidon, he will be a haven for ships, and his border will reach Sidon. And our rabbis explain that Zvulun were a tribe of merchants. They lived by the shore, and their ships carried merchandise to foreign countries. Our rabbis also ask, why did Yaakov bless Zvulun before Yisachar? After all, Yisachar was older. And they answer, because Zvulun traded with nations and shared their income with Yisachar in order that that tribe should be able to study Torah. And because of that arrangement, with Zvulun funding Yisachar's Torah study, that is why Yaakov gave him precedence. And this Zvulun-Yisachar partnership is a very famous way of explaining why it is important that people with means, people who have the ability to fund others to be able to study Torah, should do so. Because as we see from these two brothers, and because of the tribes that emerge from them, that there will be immense blessing brought to anyone who supports Torah education and supports the next generation of people being able to learn our sacred texts. Verse 14, Yisachar chamo garem. Yisachar is a strong-boned donkey. Rovetz bein hamishpasayim. He rests between the boundaries. Why is Yisachar compared to a strong-boned donkey? So our rabbis explain, because a donkey is known to be an animal that can carry a heavy load, and so too does Yisachar bear the yoke of Torah and Torah study. Others explain that when we use these words, Yisachar chamo garem, it can be translated as Yisachar was caused by a donkey. What does this refer to? So they explain that when Leah heard Yaakov's donkey bringing him back to their camp, she went out to lead him to her tent, and Yisachar was conceived that night. So quite literally, a donkey caused Yisachar. Verse 15, Vayar menucha kitov, seeing how good is his resting place, Ve'es ha'aretz ki noima, and how pleasant is the land, Vayet shichmo lisbol, Vayehi lamas oved, he will bend his shoulder to the load and work like a slave in harness. And our rabbis point out that Yisachar's land was very fruitful, and that meant that they wouldn't have to travel around in order to be able to reap the benefits of their land. Traveling was left to the tribe of Zvulun, and that enabled them to do simple work in order to earn their keep, and that meant that they would be freer to study Torah. Verse 16, Dan Yadin Amo. Dan will seek justice for his people, Ka'achad Shivtei Yisrael, as one of Israel's tribes. Our rabbis say that this could refer to Shimshon, who was a descendant of Dan, and it refers to his final act of vengeance against the Plishtim in the book of Shoftim, in the book of Judges. Or they say it applies to the entire tribe of Dan, because they would travel at the back of the camp, which we haven't got to yet, but when the Jews travelled through the desert, they went in formation, and Dan were the last tribe to be travelling at the back of the camp, and they would defend Yisrael from whoever attacked them from the rear. Verse 17, Yehi Dan Nachash ale derech, Shefifon ale orach. Dan will be a serpent on the highway, a viper by the path. Hanoshech ikve sus, vayipol rochvei achor. That bites a horse's heels, so its rider falls backwards. So like a snake who kills, so too Dan will kill all their enemies. And verse 18, Lishuasacha kivisi Adonai. I wait for your salvation, Hashem. Yaakov prays to Hashem for salvation to protect us when we are weak. Verse 19, Gad gadud yigudenu. God will be raided by raiders. V'hu yagud our cave, but he will then raid at their heels. And this is in reference to the way in which the descendants of Gad will proceed to fight with their brothers on the other side of the Yarden. When the land of Israel is divided up, we will read about how Gad wanted to take their land on the eastern side of the Jordan River, but they were only entitled to do so if they would rally together with the rest of the tribes to conquer the land of Israel. Verse 20, Me'ashesh me'na lachmo. From Asher will come rich food. V'hu yitein ma'adanei melech. He will provide kingly delicacies. And our rabbis explain that the land of Asher would be particularly abundant with delicious produce which would be fit for royalty. Verse 21, Naftali ayala shlucha. Naphtali is a deer let loose. Hanosein imrei shafer, bearing loveliest forms. Naphtali was known to be swift, as were his descendants. Why is Naphtali compared to a deer, to a gazelle? So our rabbis explain that when a gazelle is skinned, the skin was so taut that were you to try and stretch it again around the body, it would never be able to stretch that far, meaning that the skin of a deer cannot really contain the flesh of the body. And so too this is a blessing then, that Naphtali's land should not be able to hold its fruit because it is so abundant. Verse 22, Ben Paras Yosef, Ben Paras Ale Ayin. Yosef is a fruitful vine by a spring. Banos Tzvada Ale Shur, whose branches spread over a wall. And our rabbis explain that because Yosef did not look at things that were not intended for him, like the wife of Potiphar, he was blessed to not be impacted by Ayin Hara, by the evil eye. Verse 23, Vayimararuhu v'rabu. They embittered him and became antagonists. Vayistamuhu ba'alei chitzim. And archers attacked him and shot at him. And this verse is interpreted by different commentators, by different rabbis, as referring to the different challenges that Yosef faced in life. Nevertheless, verse 24, Vateshev be'esan kashtor. But his bow was firmly emplaced. Vayafozu zro'ei yadav. And his arms held firm. Midei avir Yaakov. Because of the hand of the mighty one of Yaakov. Misham ro'eh even Yisrael. Because of the shepherd Yisrael's rock. Meaning that Yosef had the strength of character to overcome his challenges. Verse 25, Me'el avicha v'azreka, because of the God of your father who will help you, v'es Shaddai v'varacheka, and because of Shaddai, because of another name of Hashem, who will bless you, birchos shamai me'al, birchos tahom rovet setz tachas, who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, and blessings of the deep that lies under. Birchos Shaddai v'racham, blessings of breast and womb. Meaning that the greatness which Yosef attained was granted to him by Hashem, who assured him that his children would rise again after they had fallen. Verse 26, Birchos avicha gavru al birchos horai. May your father's blessings surpass even the blessings of my forebears. Ad ta'avas givos olam, to the bounds of the everlasting hills. Tihiena larosh Yosef ulekadkod nazir echav. May they rest on the head of Yosef, on the brow of the exile from his brothers. Verse 27, Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf. Binyamin is a predatory wolf. Baboker yochal ad. In the morning he will devour prey, v'la'erev yechalek shalal. And in the evening he will distribute spoils. And this refers to episodes involving descendants of Binyamin, some of which involve King Saul, who was from the tribe of Binyamin. Verse 28, Kol Eileh, Shiftei Yisrael Shnei Masar. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, V'zos asher diber lahem avihem, and this is what their father said to them, Vayivarach osam, and he blessed them, Ish asher kevir chaso beirach osam. He blessed each according to his appropriate blessing. And our rabbis point out that the reason why this verse references the 12 tribes of Israel is to emphasize that all of them were tzaddikim, all of them were righteous. And although each tribe is blessed with their own individual blessings, nevertheless, each of the tribes and each of the blessings apply also to all of the other tribes. Just like branches are part of the same tree, so too the brothers are part of this unit of blessing, of bracha, which is being given over. Verse 29, Vayitzavosam, and he gave them instruction, Vayomer aleihem, and he said to them, Ani ne'esaf el ami, I'm about to be gathered to my people, Kivru osi el avosai, bury me with my fathers, El Hama'ara, Asher bistei Ephron achiti, in the cave in the field of Ephron, the Chiti, the Hittite. Verse 30, B'ma'ara Asher bistei HaMachpelah, in the cave which is in the field of Machpelah, Asher al Panei Mamre be'eretz Canaan, which is near Mamre in the land of Canaan, Asher kana Avraham es hasadeh me'es Ephron achiti la'achuzas kaver, which Avraham bought together with the field from Ephron the Chiti as a burial place. And our rabbis explain that the reason why he needs to mention this is because perhaps they've been living in Mitzrayim for so long that they've forgotten how important this burial place is. Verse 31, Shama kavru es Avraham, there Avraham is buried, ve'es Sarah ishto, as well as his wife Sarah. Shama kavru es Yitzchak, that is where Yitzchak is buried, ve'es Rivka ishto, as well as Rivka his wife. Shama kavarti es Leah, and that is also where I buried Leah. Verse 32, Miknei hasadeh v'hama'ara ashebo me'es b'nei ches. The field and the cave in it were bought from the Hittites. And finally, verse 33, Vaychal Yaakov litzavos es banav. Yaakov finished instructing his sons, Vayesof raglav el hamita, and he drew his feet back onto the bed. Vayigva, he gave his last breath, Vayeyasef el amav, and was gathered to his people. And that brings us to the end of chapter 49. Chapter 50 will be our final chapter of the book of Bereishit, in which we will talk about Yaakov being mourned by all of Egypt. Then he will be taken to his burial place in the cave of Machpelah, and we will conclude the book of Bereishit with Yosef reassuring his brothers that they have reconciled, and he is not going to take out any vengeance on them, even though their father has now passed. I look forward to learning that chapter with you. In the meantime, have a wonderful and meaningful day.